Should Ohio State and Michigan keep playing in the final game of the regular season, or is it time to move the game now that the Big Ten and college football are changing in so many other ways, and we want to avoid those rematches? I'm Nathan Baird from cleveland.com, along with Stephen Means and Andrew Gillis. We're here at Lucas Oil Stadium for Big Ten Media Day, and very late in Ryan Day's third interview session of the day, and his longest interview session of the day, it came up talking about the schedule. Are you okay with potentially playing Ohio State, Michigan back-to-back? And actually, before he was even asked, he brought it up on his own. He was asked about the Penn State game. They're not playing Penn State anymore. He brought up on his own, we need to think about the placement of that other game, about the game, because he's worried about it being diminished. In a situation like last year where Ohio State and Michigan were already scheduled to definitely play again in a rematch, does that diminish the game? And I think it's a conversation worth having. We've already sort of had it on Buckeye Talk a few times, but Stephen, were you surprised to hear from him that he's so in favor of at least talking about moving that game or finding a solution around this? Because I think in the past, maybe he hasn't been. I have to go back and look, but I don't think he was that enthused about that in the past.
I was shocked he brought that up a year earlier than he has to, because this is not a problem this year. It is next year when the divisions go away and we go to a 12-team playoff and college football becomes a whole different sport again. But right now, it's a out of sight, out of mind issue up at hand of all the things that he could have discussed with Michigan today. So from that standpoint, I'm shocked it was a conversation. I'm not shocked that that's where he is with it, though. This is a guy, we have to remember, spent a good amount of time in the NFL, and he's brought up the NFL model a couple of times with a couple of different things. So like this idea of you don't want to play a game and put all your heart and soul into it and then turn around 6 days later and have to do it again because we're clearly the best two teams in the conference. So I get that he's on that side. That's a whole different conversation, but I don't think it needed to be brought up in 2023.
So, Andrew, you're definitely on the side of not wanting a rematch, but you brought it up in terms of not wanting the Big Ten to go away from divisions. You wish that there were still the divisions because that would avoid this problem. Well, that toothpaste is out of the tube. There are going to be no divisions starting next year. Do you think this is a solution the Big Ten should consider?
I think you have to consider it because I think Ryan Day's point, like Stephen was saying, it's, you don't want to play Michigan. I mean, say they play a crazy physical game on Sunday or Saturday at the Shoe. You beat them. Then you have to go to Indianapolis a week later. If you lose that game, you're playing in the first round of that 12-team playoff. So you lose that game, and all of a sudden you have back-to-back games against Michigan. And now, here comes Utah. Here comes Florida. You're going to play another really good team. So I think a lot of people are going to look at this as, okay, well, it's back-to-back Michigan games. No, I mean, this is a team that is going to be pretty much every year. I mean, I think it would be a drastic what's the word I'm looking for? It'd be terrible if they didn't make a 12-team playoff. So this team's going to be in it every single year. So it's not just that it's back-to-back Michigan. It's that, okay, well, who are you going to play the week before Michigan? Now you're going to have to play back-to-back Michigan maybe, and then you might have to play in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, that's a lot. Like that, and I think that that's kind of his point because, I used the example earlier, like, you look at like a Clemson. Like Clemson's going to be able to play a South Carolina in the last game of the season. Then what if they play North Carolina in the ACC championship game? Then you get a bye week, and then you go, and that is just a totally different schedule compared to what Ohio State's having to play. So I think it's the Michigan argument, but it's more than just Michigan.
Well, so the thing that you're describing, though, where you'd have to play that back-to-back-to-back, that could happen just as easily if you play Penn State in the regular season finale. If they do what Ryan Day is saying, if they move the Michigan game, you play Penn State in the regular season finale, or maybe you both only have one loss, and now you're playing them again in the Big Ten championship game, and now the loser is playing. So that could still happen. I think what his bigger concern is devaluing the importance of the game. He still wants the Michigan game to be massively important. And if the problem with last season wasn't that they could have played a rematch, it's they would have played a rematch. They knew it going into the game. And so now imagine a scenario where that is what would have unfolded, and how much would it have taken away from the game, the importance of the game, or just the stakes of the game. I think that's maybe the better way to think about it. Because the way he brings it up, if you play it even 1 week ahead, week 11, week 10, very rarely will the Big Ten standings be so decided by then that you're playing a rematch with Michigan in the championship game already. So the stakes will still be on that game. I was a proponent in 2020 of moving the game to week 1 to make sure that they could play it, and they didn't. And I think that as much as tradition and having that game in the regular season finale has carried this a long way. I think Day is right that it at least needs to be discussed, and maybe through discussion they'll find out that it's not the best solution. But I think they are, and more to the point, he didn't say it should be discussed. He said it is being discussed. So that's something for us to keep an ear on. Nathan Baird, Stephen Means, Andrew Gillis, much more from Lucas Oil Stadium the rest of this week from Buckeye Talk.